covering the Gulf Coast. The Law Show. Brought to you by the personal injury law firm Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. The Law Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Law Show tonight from Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. I'm Bob Kerrigan, joined by Bill Rankin.
Good evening.
And we're here to answer your questions about the law. The Law Show is a live broadcast of lawyers who speak to our callers who call in with questions about the law. We do not provide specific legal advice for a specific case. So when you call, we can talk about general principles of the law. We might be able to aim you in the right direction if you're not sure.
Well, why don't we do that? Because we're too cheap or not getting paid for it? There's a reason for that, right?
There's a reason for that because people are entitled to confidentiality of their communications.
Well, there's that.
So
and
if they talk
we don't
to us
have time to investigate. We don't have time to research. You know, we can't just say, well, here's how the accident happened. Well, maybe there's more to it. You know.
Well, we can get some questions of a general nature, but the law protects your communication with us to be privileged. However, if you decide to ask a very personal question, then you don't get that privilege if you ask it on television. So if you start down that road...
But the real thing is, a lot of times, we tend to trust our clients, but the clients don't always know the whole picture.
They don't.
I mean, there might be somebody else who's at fault that they don't know about, and which we're only going to find out by investigating the case and getting into it.
Let's take for an example. Let's take this example. Client comes to us and they tell us they've been badly injured in an automobile accident, and the person who was driving the car was a young person, say 17 years old, and they told the investigating officer they didn't have any insurance. What would you want to know about further facts to find out, like, well, there is possible coverage? What else?
Who owned the car?
Who owned the car?
Were they running an errand for someone else? Because that could create some liability on somebody who's not around.
What about a minor?
Well, the parents signed the license, makes them liable, right?
Right. So the parents are liable because they signed the driver's license for the minor. The owner of the car is liable under Florida law. It's not true in every state, but it's true in Florida.
And if you're on a mission for somebody, if your boss tells you, well, on the way home, drop this off, they can be liable because you're working for them at the time.
What would you tell people who are considering loaning their car to somebody for whatever purpose? They just they felt sorry for somebody and they needed a car, so they loaned their car to them. Well, what problems can people have by doing that?
Well, the problem we're talking about is liability, and if you loan somebody your car, even though you're sitting at home behaving lawfully, you're responsible for any harm they cause with that car.
A lot of people don't know that, too.
Yeah. Well, I told him not to drive drunk. Would that do it? No.
No.
No, you're still responsible.
And sometimes people will say, well, I didn't know that my son was going to take my car. Well, you leave the car keys on the counter, and he's 16. Will that work?
That's been tried. I mean, what happens is, after the accident, the person we call it vicarious liability. You're liable even though you're not really the actor. And people will decide, well, I got to get out of this. Well, I told him not to drive that car, or I told him he had to ask my permission first, or I told him this or that. Generally speaking, that does not get it.
Those excuses don't
Those excuses don't get very far. You're still liable.
You know, Bill, we've been in this business for well over 30 years, for me 35 years, but we've seen so many changes since we've been doing this, particularly in terms of the public being deluged with lawyer advertising, billboards, and solicitation. In fact, Bill, I've recently learned that people are getting letters from lawyers. They're getting tips from people like tow truck drivers.
Oh, yeah. Well, letters from lawyers under some circumstances is perfectly lawful. You may consider it tacky. You may not want to do it. We don't do it. But the lawyers can do that. They have to wait 30 days, and they have to put disclaimers in the letter, and they can do it. I don't know if it gets them any business or not. We don't like it. We think it's intrusive, and we kind of wait for people to come to us. So that's something you might not like, but at least it's lawful. But the tow truck drivers, I talked to a gentleman recently who was getting all these tips. Most of them were completely erroneous from the tow truck driver. He said, well, there's a database where I can find out who's got what insurance, which is completely false. And he's recommending lawyers. Now, you may think, well, here's a nice guy just trying to help me out. Somebody's just trying to, you know, they know about lawyers, because you can't get to drive a tow truck unless you've been to know about lawyers. And it's just a nice thing, going to help me out, and I'm going to call that lawyer. Would that be a bad idea?
That would not be a good idea, because very likely the tow truck driver, and I hate to say this because it isn't true in all cases. Sometimes people will give you a tip, you know, about, oh, that lawyer's a pretty good lawyer. But somebody who deals regularly with car wrecks and things like that, and if they're trying to steer you to a lawyer, sadly, although it's illegal, in fact it's a crime, the lawyer may be paying the person to solicit the business.
My view is that that's likely. First of all, how would the tow truck driver have any, I mean, the tow truck driver's job is done when they tow the car to wherever they're towing it, and then maybe they deal with the salvage and stuff. But how would they know the outcome of the case, and how would they know the skill of the lawyer? They'd have no way to know that.
Would not know
They
that.
have no special expertise in that. Now, maybe people who work in the courthouse would really know if lawyers are good in trial or something, but not a tow truck driver. Come on. What's likely, you know, Bob's been generous about it. What's likely is the tow truck driver is getting a kickback from the lawyer, which means that if that's likely, it's also likely that the lawyer to whom you are being referred is totally unethical, because a lawyer can get disbarred for giving kickbacks to tow truck drivers.
Many years ago.
So you're getting in bed with somebody who from the get-go is unethical and bad, and you may think, well, he's lying to the bar and everybody, but he's going to treat me fine. Well, that's illusory. Don't do it.
I started to say that many years ago we had a case in which, Susie, we're going to get to your call in just a second. We had a case in which somebody came to me who was a touter or a runner to get cases for lawyers, and he'd been stiffed by the lawyer who didn't give him the money, and he wanted to sue the lawyer.
That's great.
But he had no legal claim against the lawyer, but it was unethical, and the lawyer had to be reported for what he did. But we have encountered that, and particularly, I think the most pervasive problems that I've encountered in Northwest Florida are in Okaloosa County for some reason. I'm not saying it's all corrupted, but there's some...
That's our experience.
There's some problems.
The lawyers call them running, people running the cases. If somebody who's a stranger to you, now if you get advice from your father or your close friend, that's one thing. They've got your best interest in heart. But if some stranger is really just dying to steer you to a lawyer, run in the opposite direction. That is a bad deal, because you're dealing with unethical people all around.
In Louisiana, we had a case one time where our client was badly burned in an offshore explosion, and he had a stack of cards in the hospital where lawyers came in. Louisiana's terrible. It's the Wild West in Louisiana for hustling cases. But this lawyer said the best one that he saw was a priest who came around with a cleric collar and all that. Anyway, it just happened to give him a card for his lawyer while he was praying, trying to help him out. Just trying to help him get well.
Well, do you remember this? We heard about a local lawyer who we won't name. Somebody's in the hospital and said, well, I got flowers from this lawyer. I didn't really know this. And they were supposedly in the same church or something. You know, there was some very remote connection. And because they were injured in an accident, the lawyer sent them flowers. Now, if they had cancer or something, the lawyer no doubt would have ignored them entirely.
You're listening to The Law Show, Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin tonight, and we have a number of lawyers in the law firm that are on the program from time to time. We're here every, what night is tonight? Wednesday?
It's Tuesday this week.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tuesday, it's right. Every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, it's Tuesday this week. All right, we're going to go to Susie. Susie, you're on the air.
Hey, Susie.
Susie, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take your questions. So turn down the television now when you talk to us, okay?
Pardon me?
Turn down the TV so we can hear you, and then you go ahead and ask your question.
Okay.
Turn that TV down.
Yeah, so, yeah, you can hear the delay in it, and it really makes for terrible audio.
You must have a big house. You can't get to the television. You got it finally? All right, good. All right, what's your question?
I had purchased a car last year in '09, and it wasn't running, and it was getting smoking time I got it, and I took it back, and they took it and put it in the shop, and I ain't see the car no more, and they credit my credit card for $5,000. So I want to know what to do.
When did this happen?
'09?
In '09.
Well, is this a car lot?
Yes.
One of those buy here, pay here outfits?
What city is this in?
It's in Pensacola.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do.
You brought the car back. They charged your credit card $5,000. You didn't have no car, no refund, nothing.
Nothing.
How long did you actually have the car home?
1 day.
1 day?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was smoking. I didn't drive it.
Okay.
And he drove me home to leave my other car for my granddaughter and took me back to the lot.
All right. Here's what I want you to do, okay? We can't help you tonight on the air, but you see these numbers on the screen. You see the number with all 4s on it there? Okay. You call in the morning, ask for Bill or Bob, okay, that's us, and we're going to help you out with that. We'll look into this and write a letter for you and try to get your money back for you, okay?
Okay.
You call us in the morning, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah,
that is just terrible.